How's it going, folks? Nick here with the Toyota Permaculture vlog. My co-star Otto is just right over here next to me, the garden cat. And yeah, we're out here today. I'm actually here in the afternoon, which is pretty rare. I'm usually working on other things at this time of the day, but I just happen to have a little bit of extra time that I could spend the day out here. So I'm taking that opportunity. Trying to get a lot done. I'm essentially going to be prepping a bunch of the beds to reset them completely as best I can. I don't have a huge amount of compost, but I'm just going to work with what I got and kind of go from there. So yeah, we're going to hopefully harvest some sweet potato, prep a couple beds, and then maybe even seed some beds because we got a couple days of heavy rain coming. So having the rain come and water all my seeds instead of me having to water all my seeds, that's a benefit. So the goal is to get at least 2 beds kind of prepped and seeded so that when the rain comes, the rain will help them kind of get established. So that's what we're trying to do. And Otto and I will have a good time back here, and I'll take you guys along for the ride. Let's get started. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I gotta work. I gotta go work. Let's do it. Let's go. Oh boy. All right, one of you guys, I think it's Omar out there, asked me about these boots here. These are my boots I'm wearing. This is a Boggs brand. Boggs brand, let's see, there it is right there. Boggs waterproof. These are quite dirty. You can see I had to seal the roof. I got some roof sealing paint all over them and everything. These are quite old. They're probably about at least 3 years, maybe a little more than that. So they're kind of old and kind of decrepit a little bit. So they don't look great from here, but they do work really well. And this specific kind it's called a Cooltech. I think it's the Rancher brand, Rancher Cooltech. What I really like about them is it's the hard waterproof bottom here, and then the top here is neoprene, so you can actually like fold it down. It's nice and easy. If it's really hot, you wear shorts or something, you can actually roll these down and just have a little bit of extra comfort. So I really like these. I recommend them for sure. I do enjoy this brand. I really like them, and you can see here I'm getting to the point where I just recently sprung a leak in, I think, the left one. And so that's been kind of annoying, trying to work through the watery areas and the wet areas. So I do need to replace these soon, and I would likely replace them with the same kind, but I think they don't actually sell this Cooltech, this Planet Cooltech. I don't know what it is called. Maybe it's just included in all of them now. I'm not 100% sure. But it was just meant to be to help keep your feet a little cooler in hot weather. And since I'm in the tropics, that's the one I chose when I bought them. So yeah, nothing but good things to say. They lasted me really quite a long time of really regular, consistent use. I'd say about 3 years before springing a leak is actually pretty good if you're using them on a daily basis or even kind of a full-time job basis. So yeah, definitely recommend them. Check them out. If you are interested in this little bits for you, Omar, hope that helped you. And you can see the back, the front, all the things, trying to give you all the angles here. But yeah, just a boot. In reality, whatever work boot you have that gets you to do the job, that's the one you should use, and that's the one you should buy. So that's the one I would recommend. Let's come down here to find that once again, second time today, Henry's out of his kind of caged area. You see he's running up away from me, knows I'm coming after him. Yep, go that way. There you go. Come on. Up to your home. Henry is still yet to be accepted in the flock, sadly. It's getting a little better, but it's still, he's not accepted. So just occasionally when he gets out, I need to throw him back in to his little side pen here. The bottom gate's actually open for the chickens, and so I put Henry in the main pen in here just so he could, you know, take advantage of the food and everything that the rooster's usually guarding. The rooster right now is trying to guard against me. But these guys are all doing well. You can see down there the twins, they're growing older. We think one of them might be laying an egg at this point. Not 100% sure, but that's our guess. And you can see the rooster's all armed up, doing his little dances for me. Ow. Why are you pecking at me? What'd I do to you, huh? He's feisty, likes to show off when I'm around. So that's what's going on here. All right, so my goal, first and foremost, is to basically clean up this very overgrown bed and hopefully find some sweet potatoes in the ground. All right, you can see here, underneath all this stuff, we got a whole bunch of growth in this bed. I'm gonna have to clean this up a little bit to make sure, basically make room for what's next in this whole bed here. I mean, this area right now is sweet potato, and that's what it's gonna be more or less, but I'm gonna see if I can add a little bit as an inner plant since it's about that time, trying to get some more things growing. I'm looking up here, I see this papaya, another male yet again. So I'm probably just gonna cut that down because I don't need another male right here. And it's really shading out this entire bed. So that's why I'm gonna remove it. If I needed that extra shade, I would just leave it, but I don't need it right now. And this papaya up here looks also like it's gonna end up being a male based on those little flowers. So that one might end up going too. But I might keep that one for now because I don't think it's gonna be harming anything. From down here, right down here, this right here, these are parcha, passion fruit vines, and they're going all over the place here. And I suspect that this is gonna be a long term. And I love parcha, I love passion fruit, so I want these to grow. But I also want to still make sure that I'm maintaining my growing space, because otherwise things are just gonna get out of control and I'm not gonna have anywhere to actually grow the crops that I want to be growing. So this is going to be an interesting little challenge. What I'll probably end up doing is trying to create a trellis that comes from around where they're planted and brings it over to the moringa tree here and above, and I can actually end up using that to shade over the chickens. Right now I have it growing up into this support tree here, and you can see it's doing quite a good job. It's already starting to go quite far up there. It's hooking on at the top, but yeah, this is basically going straight over. But what's going to end up happening is this bed in here is going to be pretty much always part shade if this is going to really boom and grow. Now, I don't actually have a huge problem if this thing ends up taking over and shading this out a little bit, because like I said, I love parcha and I do want that as a crop back here, and it is a long-term perennial crop. So I definitely want to encourage it to be able to grow. I just might need to adjust it a little bit to make sure it's actually going to be beneficial for us. So we'll see what happens as we get going in here. For this bed, first thing I'm going to do is basically clear all the green, everything that's growing on top. I'm going to clear all that out, and that's going to end up being just thrown into the chickens. They'll eat it or whatever. The chickens have actually been getting out quite frequently, so that's a not so great thing, but they've been cleaning it up a little bit for me already, so hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to take out all the green parts. Once all the green parts are removed, I'm going to hopefully be digging up a bunch of sweet potato. That's the goal. Hopefully that's what I find down there. And then after that, I'll just do a little bit of prep for the bed to get it ready for something new, and we'll go from there. I'm going to get started with that and just let you guys watch along. All right, you can see I just cleaned this bed up here. It's not, well, not completely clean, there's still a bunch of stuff left, but what I like to do when I'm harvesting sweet potato is leave the roots that are directly connected, as you can see, to the sweet potato here, just so it's easier to find where I should be digging. So I don't pull all of them, I just kind of cut them, and then from there I'm going to start harvesting. So let's see how much we can get out of this one little area. All right, there we go. Harvested. Bed kind of got turned all during that process just to get a little bit of air. Didn't get a huge harvest. I didn't really expect to get a huge amount in this first try, just because it's brand new beds. The soil doesn't have a lot of tilth. It's not super, super loose in the soil. So I didn't really expect a huge yield. So I'm not actually too sad about this. This will be enough for a couple days dinner, and that's a couple days dinner we don't have to buy. So just a little by little. Also, the other thing in here is because as this got a little bit more overgrown, it lost a lot of its sunlight exposure, and then that basically just took away a lot of the production potential down there. But about 4 to 6 inches down into the soil there, it's pretty hard clay still. So that area, it's still building the tilth. It's still getting a little bit more penetrated down there. We're still working on building that soil. So what I'm going to do is, well, basically what I already did is I used a broad fork, or used this garden fork here. You could use a broad fork if you had that, but use the fork to loosen up the soil, and that just basically just sticking it down and then lifting. And I did that basically this whole bed because I was trying to harvest all the sweet potato. So this bed's pretty much all done with that. Next step would be basically to add a little bit of compost, and then I would likely then seed into the basically compost soil mix, so it's just all done, and then mulch right on top. And that's what's going to be done for this bed. And that's going to basically be what I do next, I think, with you guys, just so I can get a whole project started and stopped by the end of this vlog, instead of taking you along the whole day of me back here. So that's going to be next. I'm going to prep for that, and then we'll pick it back up. All right, about 20 minutes later, a little bit of a light shower just came through. You can see the beautiful kind of hazy skies up there, a little bit moist. Kind of see all that really wet air over there in the mountains. Really cool to see. But I've continued along. I've already started seeding, but I figured I'd just kind of walk you through as I finish up what I've kind of, how I laid it out, and etc. So in this bed here, I've decided to plant cilantro because that's one of our kind of staple herbs that we like. So I have a lot of cilantro going in here. I have dill as well, which apparently is also, it grows well with cilantro, or coriander, also known as coriander. I have that, and so the dill is all seeded right along the edge of this upper bank here, and it also comes down the side over here. Now I did that because here I've noticed that dill kind of grows pretty quickly, swiftly. It just jumps right on up, and so I figure having it towards the back and also right up against this kind of barrier here where there's already tall plants, it's going to force it to want to go kind of straight up to compete for that light a little bit. And the sun kind of comes from over here, and then it goes up in the air, and then it sets down over on that side. So I should have pretty much sun coming from straight above for a lot of the day, although it is being pacified by both the moringa, the papaya, and also this kind of legume here. And then it will get a decent amount of sun from the end of the day, but it's also kind of blocked. So again, this is all going to be part shade. So it's completely possible that some of these are not going to love this specific bed, or I might need to make sure I just do a little bit of heavy pruning straight above for the beginning of the season, right as they're starting. And then as it gets hot, really we're going into winter here, so I won't really have the huge problem of it getting really hot because I'm going to be growing all these into the cooler season here in the tropics. So I might just go up and cut a bunch of this back so I have a little bit more sun hitting these beds to get a little bit more growth, especially right at the beginning, just to make sure we get plenty of sun as they're getting started. Obviously we don't want too much sun, so there's always a balancing act there, right? You don't want to just take away all of its shade and then it's just completely dry. You have to irrigate all the time, right? Again, I'm planting right before rains are coming, so tomorrow we're supposed to get quite a bit of rain as well as the next day. So I'm planting now so I don't have to think about watering for the next couple of days, because you want to make sure the soil is moist when you get the seeds in, right? All right, so back to this bed. Just a couple little tips and pointers. Up against here I have this dill, and the turmeric up here I could actually probably harvest at this point and then replant, at least a little bit over here on this side. So I can always dig this up. It's also going to give me a little bit more sun coming in the morning from this way. So many different options here, right? But as a dill here, if it does need more light, I have that option of removing these guys as I'm harvesting. And if it's doing just fine, it's doing just fine. It might try to come this way out towards me, which I'll just have to watch, but that might just be me pruning on a regular basis and harvesting on a regular basis. The other thing I'm planting in here is Daikon radish. So this is a cross. That's the one I'm using from Johnny's Seeds. I do recommend them if you guys are looking for seed to buy, at least in the States, in that area. These guys do really good stuff. So I'm trying this Daikon radish because I have this pretty, heavy clay soil underneath. And what Daikon radish does is it shoots its radish basically straight down. It grows down its root, and then it gets bigger. So it actually will break open that heavy clay. So it's really, really good if you have really heavy soils, compacted soils, to try to just loosen them up. So I am growing it as a harvestable crop for the radishes, but I'm also growing it to help loosen my soil. So I'm trying to stack functions every single time I'm putting something into a bed. So there's going to be 3 rows of those, one little strip here, one strip right where my fork is here, my garden fork, and then one strip right where these two gloves are. So these two gloves and this fork, I've already planted those. I'm going to seed these in just a second. And you can see small indentations. There's one here, there's one here, and there's two more there. This one I'm doing vertically, 1, 2, 3. And then that one I'm doing horizontally, 1, 2, 3. And this is all for cilantro, for coriander. Really cilantro because we're growing it for the leaf. Coriander is when you're growing the same plant for the seed. So you grow it for seed and then you use that coriander as a spice. You dry that seed, ground it up, and that's like spice coriander. That's also basically, it's cilantro. I think there's another word for cilantro in other places of the world and I can't think of it right now. I'll try to remember it because sometimes that might get a little confusing. Here in Puerto Rico, it's cilantrillo. So it's like little cilantro basically, because there's also culantro, and culantro is just a weed. It's right here actually. I just transplanted it from another place in the bed, and this has a taste very similar to cilantro, except it's really much more potent. It's like really concentrated cilantro flavor. So that's just a weed that grows here. So they separated culantro and cilantrillo. I believe that's how it's called here. So I'm actually putting these a little bit closer than the recommended spacing. Recommended spacing is about 12 inches apart of rows. So I'm putting them more like 6 inches apart. This one's a little bit wider. We're close to that foot there. It's probably closer to 8 to 10 inches. And definitely small there. And this is mainly because I'm trying to grow a lot of it for us to eat. And so we can still harvest it when it's young to give these guys a little bit more spacing if we need to. And as we're harvesting, we're just being mindful of, oh, I want to make sure that I have enough room for these other guys to grow up bigger. So overseeding, and then I'll thin them out a little bit when they get a little bit older. But really, if you're just growing it for the leaf, you don't really need to thin cilantro too much. It's usually just fine growing really close together. You can thin a little bit just to get a little bit more bulk if you really want it. So that's just a thought here. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to start seeding and just kind of have you guys be able to see what I'm doing. I mean, it's pretty. Just read your seed packets or read your online manual or whatever you're using to kind of learn of what to plant, when to plant it, etc. And it's not that hard, guys. So I got a big bulk pack of cilantro right here, and right on the back there, it actually gives you a lot of the information. That's one of the things I like about Johnny's seeds, is that it does give you a lot of this information right in the back there. So I'm looking at how I want to plant these. Like it says, 12 to 18 inches apart for the rows, and then so 1 to 2 seeds per inch, about a ½ inch deep. So there's the seed. And typically with seeds, the spacing, the depth of where you're putting the seed, it's usually about double the width of the actual seed. So these things are about a 1/4 inch wide, so you put them about ½ inch deep. I've already made my little furrows where I want them, and this is 1 to 2 seeds per inch. And I kind of just eyeball that. I always overseed just to give these guys a little bit extra chance. I want to make sure that I have the growth, and I don't mind if I get a little bit extra. I'm actually going to leave those furrows open because I just had another idea here. I'm removing any kind of big clumps. I just kind of turn this bed a little bit. I'm moving any like the big clumps just to kind of give myself a little bit more friable soil here. But it's not, I don't mind a little of some clumps in there. It's no big deal. Like I said, I'm just trying to follow that 1 to 2 seeds per inch, but really I'm about doubling that. I'd rather have just plenty of seed in there, and if I really need to thin it, I will. That just works better for me. It also just means that it's more likely that I'm going to get growth in case there are some duds in here, or if something happens. You can see I'm interseeding right with this tree root here of this papaya, because the papaya might be here long term, but it might not. So I don't really mind if they interact, and also those interactions in the soil can often lead to really beneficial things for the plants growing there. It's my last row of the Daikon radish that I'm using here. This is actually a hybrid. I usually recommend getting some sort of heirloom variety, basically something that you don't need. A hybrid, if this crosses and produces seeds, I'm not going to be able to use those seeds to get this exact same thing. If you have those heirloom varieties or open pollinated varieties, those ones you'll basically retain the same characteristics of this specific seed in the next generation. So I don't usually recommend these kind of plants, but In this case, I'm not really looking to collect the seed of daikon. Sure, I could actually use that through various projects here. But if I'm planning on really doing that with the daikon radish, I'll just make sure that I get some sort of heirloom variety and then start that. Right now, my goal is just to get these seeds in the ground and get a new crop going. So this one, there's a 2 to 3 inch wide band, and it recommends that you put about 35 seeds per band. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. I'm just kind of gently counting in my head. And really, I'm just spacing them every like 1 to 2 inches. Because remember, these are radishes, and these are long radishes. They go deep, deep into the ground. So it's not like a radish. It's just going to be a small little thing that you pluck up. These ones are going to go much deeper and then widen out. So I'm giving them plenty of space. And then I'm just going to cover it right back up, nice and gently. You know, I kind of brush it on less than like cover it, because that just kind of gives me a little bit of sense that I'm going nice and soft on it. And any clumps of these big, because I just kind of, like I said earlier, I turn this looking for those sweet potatoes, right? So I just kind of break up any of those clumps, but I don't mind small little clumps like this, as long as the leaves can get through. Those clumps are fine with me. They're going to slowly get worked into the soil. All right, so looking here for these three, these are my 3 rows. This one, I just decided to do something different, try them vertically instead of horizontally. I'd usually do a cross contour, but it's nice just to experiment and see if one way works better than another. So that's how I did it here, just to try that out. And I'm noticing that there's this lot of space right in the middle here where until this stuff is ready to harvest, basically until it grows enough that it needs to actually take up all this space, because it's gonna be like kind of like a bushy thing. Oop, let me go over here. It's going to be kind of like a bushy thing that comes up like this, you know, with the cilantro goes straight up and kind of out a little bit. So until it gets to that point, this whole area can be used for something in the very short term. So if you do something really, really quick, again, I'm going to choose a radish in this case just to see how that works. These are little round radishes. They're very small. And so they'll be able to basically just grow up, take up this space. I can harvest those right as the cilantro is about to start being ready to mature, to actually start harvesting the leaves from. So these guys are ready in just about 3 weeks, 26 days. So just over 3.5 weeks, basically. These guys are ready to go. And the cilantro will probably be just starting to think about getting close to harvest right around there. So I'm basically stacking in time when I'm doing this thing. So here's going to be a really, really quick short-term crop. And right here is going to be kind of my longer term, or kind of medium term really in this case, because these are just a vegetable garden. So in this case, I'm just going to put another little small furrow right in between these 2 cilantro seed beds. And then I'm just going to put about one every inch, because I don't really want these things to like super overgrow. It's just going to be it's going to be a small little band of them, right? So it's not going to be a perfect row. I'm actually widening it out. You basically choose either a row or like a small band, 2 to 3 inch wide band. So here I have the opportunity, it just takes up a little bit more of that space in here while I'm trying to fill that space, and I can harvest. A single band would give me just like 1 row of those little small round radishes. But if there's little small radishes, I can probably get 2 or 3 in this little thing if I have kind of 2 offset rows. So that's kind of what I'm going to go for here. And then I'm just going to cover this over, because I know that row is done. Cover this over, because that row is done. And then I'm just going to spread right on top that little area where I just put those daikon seeds. They don't need to be too deep. So I know right here is going to be my little row. So make a little 2 to 3 inch wide furrow, not too wide. And then I'm just going to place the seeds. And so that's why I didn't cover up my cilantro seeds right after I placed the seed. It's just so I could see in my inner space in here how much room I could actually fit some more plants in. Do the same thing here, but it's a much tighter environment. So I'm actually going to do the row instead of the band here. I'm really packing this area. I don't actually know if this is going to serve me well or not, but that's what I like to do. I just like to experiment. And so in this case, I'm going to try to actually get like 1 per inch or so. If the next one falls out, I don't mind. The only reason I can do this is because my cilantro seed rows are still open and I can see. So actually I'm going to cover them up. And that's cilantro seed row at the top there, breaking up any large clumps. Here's my radish row. It's covered. Cilantro row covered. radish row I just put in, covered. I'm gonna cover up this cilantro row. Just because I got this room here, might as well try to use it. We'll see if it'll get me anywhere or end up making it harder for me in the future. And there we have it. This whole row, this whole bed here is planted with a whole variety of things. I guess I should try to remind myself as I do this. So in the back here is dill, and along the side there's a little bit of dill. There's a big wide band of Daikon radish here. And this little area I have strips going across. I have 4 rows of cilantro, and in between those rows I have a small round radish, another row of Daikon radish right through here. In this case I went vertically. I have 3 rows of cilantro, and then in between those rows, wherever I could fit it, I put in the small round radishes. I believe that was right along the side here, and right in the middle. And these ones I did bands, like a 2 to 3 inch wide band. And this one right here, this is 3 rows of cilantro once again, with small round radish right in between. And this is a Daikon radish row, if I didn't mention that already. And in the back here, this is all dill. So that's the bed, replanted, harvested, added some compost. So what you see in the top here, kind of that, it almost looks kind of like a mulch, more so like a wood chip mulch that's really broken down. That's basically compost from the chicken system. It's not super active compost. It's actually previously made compost. And it's basically everything that they've kicked down. You can see where the rooster is right now. There's a lot of material that they've kicked down over time from up here. And right beneath the top, like 1 inch or so of that really kind of thick stuff there, it's much more moist. It's much more, has a lot of moisture in it. And it kind of maintained a little bit of that kind of compost feeling. So this isn't going to be like super active, but it is going to add some of the beneficial microorganisms, the biota in the soil food web, back into the soil that have been remained there, or they might actually be in a form where they're just waiting to be in a perfect environment again, and then they'll actually kind of come out of their dormancy and start going again. So I've kind of inoculated with that, and I basically created my furrows into that kind of compost and soil. And then I added the seeds. Next thing I'm going to do is just add a bunch of mulch to up here to basically give this a nice protection from the rain so it doesn't get too battered, and also protection from, you know, cats and everything that want to come in here and play on this nice fresh new soil. So I see a little seeds popping out here, so I'm just going to push that in a little bit. And there's going to be a couple seeds probably on top, because the way I do it, I just kind of make a furrow and then close it back up. And it kind of puts the seeds at a bunch of different depths, but in a way I like that, because sometimes just with the circumstances you're in, the seed needs something slightly different. So I'm giving it a nice variety of growth conditions, a little bit deeper, a little bit shallower. Which one's going to come up is going to depend on how that seed likes it, and how well it is. You don't want it to be too deep. You just want a nice little, usually a light layer, unless you have a big seed, in which case it might need complete darkness to actually sprout. So you need to know your seeds. Each one of these only want to be about 1/2 inch deep at the most, so not very deep at all. So just like a nice small furrow, lay the seed in, cover them back up. Nice and easy, nice and quick. Get your food growing. Found another sweet potato when I was kind of rifling through there, so I get to add that to the bucket. So that's fun. Got both the white and the yellow sweet potatoes in here, so it's kind of cool to see them both in here. And yeah, that's a bed, and it's nice to see this thing in some state of normalcy again. It's been a long time because I've just left it in sweet potato and left it there all summer, so I haven't really done anything to this bed. So it's nice to kind of see it a little bit more maintained. And I'm just going to add a little bit of mulch. I'll give you a final shot of the mulch after I sign off, so you can just kind of see the bed all completely finished and tucked away. And that'll be it for today's vlog. I'm probably going to keep going for another hopefully hour or two, and maybe get to one more bed, just because we do have rain coming. I'd like to get the seeds in the ground so they can start growing, and so I don't have to think about watering for the first 3, maybe 4 days even, if it's nice and moist. So All right, that's it for me today, guys. If you do like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel or share videos. Share one that you like. I'm especially fond of having you guys share my compost videos, because I think compost is really important and the information is important to get out there. And the compost videos I'm sharing are basically me doing them, me talking about it, talking how to manage it, talking how to know whether or not it's good compost, high quality compost, and we're talking about aerobically, actively managed compost piles. So this is a kind of like the good stuff, the stuff that has really high levels of biota in it, and is really good for your garden. So that's what I'm talking about here. Love for you guys to share those videos, that compost playlist. I did make a playlist now, so it's easy to find all my compost videos in one spot. And yeah, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, have a good one.